who's interested in viewing the recording can access it later on as well. And you can either email me or Michaela to be able to get access to that fairly readily. So welcome once again to the BFA Thesis Conversation. This is our chance for us to highlight the work of our about to graduate senior students in fine arts and design this semester. We will be doing that in a format where each student presents for approximately 10 minutes, and then they'll be able to have a conversation with our respondent, our specially invited respondent, Maria Porges. So some of you might not need any introduction to Maria. She's a long-standing faculty member at CCA. She's an artist and a writer, and she teaches in the graduate program in fine arts and the graduate programs in visual and critical studies and the undergraduate fine arts program here at CCA. She's an artist in her own right, and her studio practice focuses on sculpture, ceramics, and drawing, and her work has been exhibited nationally since the late 80s. So she's got a long-standing track record as a successful professional artist. Her critical writing has appeared in many publications, including Art Forum, Art in America, Sculpture, and the New York Times Book Review, as well as on numerous websites and now defunct art magazines, which happens a lot in the art magazine world. She's also authored essays for more than 125 exhibition catalogues, including one for me as well. She's been involved in several artist books and dozens of scripts for museum exhibition audio guides. She's currently working on a book herself about mending as practiced across all art media. So she's a really great respondent here today. She's got a really broad depth of broad and deep understanding of the contemporary art world, and has focused largely on craft practice in her own work as well. So I think she's a great respondent for today's students. So thank you, Maria, for joining us today and sharing your insights and experiences. Today I'll be hearing from 5 outstanding young artists who are in their final semester with us here at CCA. We have Angela Lafko, who's in the Jewelry Metal Arts program, Claire Bivens, who's in the Ceramics program, Jonas Cohen, who's in the Furniture Design program, Yaxuan Zhang, who's in the Jewelry and Metal Arts, and Zhang from Jewelry and Metal Arts. So each student will have as I said, about 10 minutes to do their presentation. I'll rudely interrupt at about 7 minutes to say you've only got 3 minutes left to go. So please forgive me for doing that. It'll probably put you off your game and make you nervous, but that's the way it is. And then we'll have about 10 minutes for Maria to respond. If you go beyond your 10 minutes, we're going to keep each presentation to 20 minutes. So if you exceed your 10-minute load, then that just gives Maria less time to converse with you, which would be a loss of opportunity for all of us. So each student can introduce themselves. So I think I'll stop the introductory comments here and hand it off to Angela Lafko. So Angela, are you there?
Hi.
I can see you there somewhere. Hi, Angela. Do you want to turn your screen on and share your screen?
Yeah. Okay. You guys can see the screen?
Yeah, indeed.
Thank you. So good afternoon. I'm Angela Lafko. My major is Jewelry Metal Arts. So first slide about me. I'm from mixed cultured family. I grew up in Taiwan, and then I like building Gundam, scuba diving, and Godzilla figures. And then I took a jewelry metal workshop, which got me interested in jewelry when I was living in Asia. And then being able to create intricate pieces brings me satisfaction and motivates me to create art. So I don't have a specific artist for my influences and inspirations. Mine's more like nature or like marine life, which I go scuba diving a lot when I lived in Asia. So I always like looking at the marine life and their alien-like characteristics and neon bright colors and like transparent and opaque. So here's like coral, like a transparent lobster. This is a jellyfish, an anemone, some shrimp on like a nudibranch. I like these are sea slugs, and then like little crabs. There's a lot more to fit. So past work. This is a ritual object inspired by ancient Buddhist dagger, and then I handcrafted the top piece, and then I cast it in bronze, and then I fabricated the blade, which is made out of brass, and then I soldered them both together. So I'd included this one because like it was like a bigger scale than jewelry piece that I worked on, and it was kind of challenging for me. So I'm glad it worked. Another past work is a moving component ring. I carved the wax, the two rings in the middle. I carved them out of wax, and then I cast it in silver, and then I put it on an inner ring, which makes these two middle rings move, which was the project that we had to do. We had to make moving components. Yeah, and then I sweat soldered this edge ring so it could be closed. So that was good. That was one. And then another one is a client-based project for Phaedra. She already got graduated, and I designed it based on her love of the Bay Bridge, and I added her birthstone, which is peridot stone, and then I did pave setting and bead setting, and this is like a pendant on like a necklace, and then I wire wrapped some topazes, and like they're hanging by chains. So, yeah, okay. So my thesis work idea is a emphasis on plastic waste in the ocean, and like plastic waste destroys the ocean biodiversity, and marine life is like living among the plastic. So my thesis work is like I design small like marine creatures, and then they're going to be living on plastic, which I recycled and then manipulated. So here are the creatures that I designed in Nomad. I sculpted them in Nomad, and then yeah, this is like a shell anemone seahorse and nudibranch. It's like the pom crab, which I my favorite crab. And then this is also like inspired by jellyfish. And then I started to manipulate plastic bottles, which after I didn't buy it just to, you know, for the project. I kind of like through the semester, I collected the bottles and then washed them, and then started to manipulate them with heat. And I started to like make this like coral texture. So after I casted my pieces, they're gonna be like living on the plastic like that. And then this will be on a wall. So they're gonna be like multiple like I guess like 10 to 20 of these bottles with my multiple creatures on them, living on them. So yeah, this is what it looks like casted out. I did fine silver so I could enamel on top, and then I did bronze. Also, after I sculpt them in the Nomad, I 3D printed at school, and then I cast them all at school. Yeah. Yeah, there's more enameling. These are my favorites. Yeah. Or like the nudibranchs are my favorites too, the color. So yeah, started experimenting with enamel, clean them up a bit. So yeah, they're just like vibrant neon colors. And then, so for the plan for these three anemones, I'm going to put them on a bangle, which I formed out of copper, 2 plates of copper, and I riveted, and then I formed it into a bangle, and then I drill holes. I already drilled them, but yeah, and then I'm gonna laser weld the anemones onto the bangle. Oh, and then also this bangle, before I do the laser weld, I will enamel this bangle, like bluish colors, sea colors. And then I also have this necklace piece, which all the pieces are casted out. I just need to put them all together. So yeah, these forms I designed last semester, and they're basically about inspired by glaciers, melting glaciers, like rising temperature, climate change. Um, so. And then, so after graduation, I think I'm just gonna continue working on my professional career as a bench jeweler, advancing my skills in fabrication work and stone setting. So yeah, I think, and then this is my contact info. So yeah, thank you everyone for attending. Thank you to all my classmates motivating me, my friends for support, and all the mentors that have taught me throughout CCA. Been it's been a journey, but yeah, that's it.
Thanks, Angela. It's really great to see your work. I'll hand you straight over to Maria so you can have an extended conversation. If anyone's got any questions, then please post them or comments. Please post them in the chat so we can we'll keep those and forward them on to Angela as well. Maria.
I'm just taking a peek at the chat. Okay. So Angela, the marine life work is so beautiful. I wanted to ask you, it seems as though many pieces are rings, but it was not clear to me what whether all of these pieces are wearable jewelry or if you have intended them to be functioning as an installation. For instance, the pieces that are inside the plastic bottles. Are those all wearable jewelry?
They're more of like tabletop, like sculptural sitting size. Yeah, some of them are like mostly like rings, and these ones.
And in the photograph on the right here, those three anemones, those are also rings or not?
They will be placed onto a bangle.
Those are the ones for the bangle. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So, and the glacier necklace?
Yes.
I was interested in that. If you could talk about that a little more. You were saying that it's plastic, bronze, and fine silver, and you described it as cast.
Right. The metal pieces are cast. Sorry, I forgot to mention that I would be incorporating like plastic to connect the pieces.
Okay.
Yeah, just to tie it all in with the other seams.
So you're not actually casting plastic. That's what I was wondering about.
Yeah, no, yeah, sorry.
Can you talk a little bit more about the piece with the bottles with the creatures in them and your vision for that? I'm really interested in that piece. You said the bottles are going to go on the wall?
Yeah, I'm gonna try to figure out how to place them on the wall. Probably nail them on, and then there's gonna be like clusters of them, like maybe like 4 to 5 clusters and like other little clusters around it, not just like whole thing is gonna be plastic. No, it's like little clusters, and then the pieces will be on there as like a little habitat, like kind of like when you're under the water, the like little patches of corals. And
so they're not inside the bottles, they're on the surface of the bottles. It's a little bit hard to see.
Yeah, they're on the surface.
As if they were resting on a coral cushion. Got it. So it appears in the one that's the second from the left that you've really worked that surface. So that's what I was really interested in, the idea of, how you were going to present all of them. I think the idea of nailing them on the wall could definitely work, but how are you going to attach the cast elements to the plastic?
I would probably like for something more secure, maybe like kind of envision like how the plastic bottles are going to be on the wall first and then like place kind of place the pieces on and see like how I like it, and then kind of like use my hot pen to like form openings in the plastic balls specifically for that piece.
Ah,
So yeah, so this one I did make a circle and like kind of like shoved it in there. So
mhm.
he's kind of permanently in there. And then like maybe the crab, I could put a little hole and like push his leg in.
So
Yeah.
these elements will be staying together once you've chosen their place. They'll be staying together.
Yeah, I think that's like maybe like the last thing I do. So
So in the beginning, you mentioned that you come from two cultures. And I was wondering if you've thought uh, about or can talk about what that has brought to your work. I'm really interested in that because it seems that you've had a unique experience.
I guess like because like my dad, he's like half Asian, half white. So we lived in Asia, and like I was learning a new language, and like I could go to like these different islands like Philippines, Indonesia, and that's where I went scuba diving. So he introduced me to that, and he's like all about like outdoor stuff. So it did introduce me to like different things, like, and then we would go like on these big hikes and like um so yeah, that did have a big influence. Because after I came to like college in America, I really rarely go scuba diving. Like maybe go to the beach, walk on the beach, but like I could not go scuba diving like how I was living in Asia.
Well, it's a lot colder here.
Yeah, yeah. So, so that's
Uh,
different.
How about your mother's culture? Can you talk about that?
Um, my mom is Korean, but it's kind of different because she grew up in the States. So, you know, knows like little Korean. She's like mostly grew up in LA, like Cali girl. So yeah.
So you're drawing on a really rich set of experiences, and I think it really shows in the sea life. The thing that I just can't get out of my mind is how beautiful those enameled anemone are.
Yeah, they came out great. I'm so happy.
And you mentioned that you sculpted these pieces in something called Nomad. For those of us who don't know what that is, can you explain that a little bit?
So it's like an iPad application, and like um if you know Procreate, like it's just like a 3D version of that, in my opinion. Um and
So
then
it's a 3D rendering on
yeah,
the
yeah.
it's in software. And then from that, how do you then take that into actually casting the form?
So I would have to export the file to like a 3D printing file, and
Mhm.
then the school has 3D printers. So I upload it, print it, and then I get these like castable resin wax, and then I put it on like I sprue it, add the plaster, I mean the investment, and then burn it out, and then I pour in the metal, and then I start like refining everything.
It's so amazing because there's so much complexity, and especially the rings here in the image on the left,
Mm.
the sides of the rings have such a complex texture. And so you're telling me that this process is all performed within the design software, but of course, I'm sure that the process of casting and chasing and all of that is very involved. But you're saying that the design, the original design, happens in the software.
Yeah, yeah, so here it's like
Yes.
texture here. Mostly like all the texture like came up. Um, If it's like super tiny, like probably gonna be lost. But yeah.
In the future, do you think you're going to continue working with, I know you said your thesis is this idea about plastic waste destroying marine life, but are you going to continue with this marine life theme? And also, so second question, do you think you're going to be, you said you were going to work as a bench jeweler to increase your skills. Do you think that, is that going to mean that you are going to be oriented towards making wearable jewelry or making more sculptural works like the ones with the plastic?
Well, like as a bench jeweler, I probably just like it's more like wearable pieces. I'd probably have to do the sculptural pieces like on my days off. So yeah, I think that's, but yeah, I would continue the practice. And um when I was recycling the plastic, like I was more wary of my consumption of plastic. Like I didn't want to buy like so much. Like I just wanted it definitely like I was looking at the plastic waste that I accumulated. I was like, oh my God, this is so much. So it definitely makes me more cautious.
Well, that image you showed of the sea floor covered with plastic is just devastating.
Yeah, it's saddening.
And where is this picture taken?
Uh, I'm not sure, but there's a lot of trash in the oceans. Even in back in Asia, there's like when I go like snorkeling or something, like plastic bags everywhere. So,
No doubt. Uh, so Donald has mentioned a couple things in the chat. One is that you should consider applying for the Schmidt Ocean Research Artist in Residency Program.
whoa.
And notice he's provided you with the address for doing that, and I agree with him. I think that would be ideal. Additionally, let's see. I agree also that Mark Dion's sort of fantasy sea life would be interesting for you to see. And also Damien Hirst's movie, The Wreck of the Unbelievable, in which Damien Hirst created a fake archaeological site. It's very inspiring. Just the scale alone.
Thanks,
So
Maria. Thanks, Angela. We're pretty close to the end of our 20 minutes, and Angela had a short presentation. So that was, thank you very much for that. But we've had a little bit of longer time for the discussion that way. Thanks, Angela. Well done.
Okay, thank you guys. Thank you for the chat comments. Appreciate it.
And I think for each of the speakers, we'll be able to get the chat comments to you as well. So if anyone else has got any comments or thoughts or references for Angela or for anyone else, please put them in the chat, and that way they'll get them in the fullness of time. Cool, thanks. Okay, move on to our next speaker, Claire Bivens, who's a senior in the ceramics program.
Hi. Let's see. Again. Is that up for everybody?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, I'm Claire. I'm in ceramics, as Donald said. A little bit about me. I was born and raised in San Francisco. This is my sister and I in Golden Gate Park. I grew up in a really cool family of artists, and I got to try a lot of different hobbies and mediums growing up. I've danced, played trumpet, made a lot of comics, and in my work, I'm interested in combining cartooning with painting and sculpture and exploring themes of myth, fantasy, symbiosis, and natural relationships. Some of my influences are Wayne Thiebaud, who I consider the all-time genius of color theory, as well as Henri Rousseau, because I love how imaginative these paintings are and his kind of untrained style. For better or worse, I've been obsessed with R. Crumb since I was a kid, and he really informed my interest in comics. And I love Maria Suarez from Kiss's work and how she combines cartooning and sculpture. This is one of the first ceramic pieces I made while I was trying out different mediums in my time at City College. I was inspired by Baroque pottery and how over the top and nonsensical those works are. It was also one of the first pieces I made thinking about natural relationships, and this is kind of a funny prey riding predator scenario. This is another in what I call the rider series. I was using the relief cutouts on the sides to make it more illustrative, and this kind of genderless big butt character became a motif in my work that I still use. Some more from that series. This horse on the left is my rendition of a Haniwa horse, which are Japanese burial artifacts in terracotta from the Kofun period. Maria knows all about that because I wrote a paper on it for her. Here I was exploring more hanging elements as well as my interest in pollinator relationships. I couldn't figure out exactly how to explain that interest without including this Chris Cooper monologue from the movie adaptation. So I'll just read that for you. What's so wonderful is that every one of these flowers has a specific relationship with the insect that pollinates it. A certain orchid looks exactly like a certain insect, so that insect is drawn to this flower, its double, its soulmate, and wants nothing more than to make love to it. Then after, the insect flies off, spots another soulmate flower, and makes love to it, thus pollinating it. And neither the flower nor the insect will ever understand the significance of their lovemaking. How could they know that because of their little dance, the world lives? I feel like that monologue kind of sums up a lot about what's interesting about art and life to me, and this idea of desire as a meaningful barometer. This image is from a show I had at Adobe Gallery in 2021 that I called Consider the Lilies. I wanted to show the vessels in a space and being used. My friend Sophia made these flower arrangements from found flowers. This is a detail of that piece, Consider the Lilies of the Field. I was incorporating text here to tie in the comics. And this quote is originally from the Bible and also was used in a Virginia Woolf poem. It's kind of a call to surrender to the benevolence of God. And I just do a lot of considering the lilies. These are some of my comic works. This is a comic I published in a magazine called Tinfoil in 2020. It's about the death of my sister. It's kind of a dream sequence where this primordial butterfly visits me in my sleep and tells me to get my shit together. For this comic, the entire reference was from a 12-slide eBay listing of a Precious Moments doll. I just love the idea of someone setting up this elaborate photo shoot for this kitschy little object that they're trying to get rid of. And it has kind of a sinister undertone, I guess, because I wrote the comic about heartbreak and grief. For this one, I kind of reversed that idea and I made the object and photographed it. My brother wrote for me this poem about the brutality of nature. The sculptural style and glaze, as well as the theme of the poem, come up a lot for me. Here again, I was trying to tie in my comics with the ceramic work. In this comic, a woman meets a bird and asks it when she'll die, and whether she's being who she wants to be and if she would be proud of her life. And he just blinks at her because he's a bird. This one, again, I was combining functional ceramics with my painting. And I guess this is kind of a domestic version of the natural relationship. It's called Dog Looking at a Cat on a Windowsill, Cat Showing Dog Its Butthole. And I think that pretty much sums it up. This was a table I made in my furniture fundamentals class. I made these hand-carved tiles of rare orchids that are members of one-to-one pollinator relationships. These are some detailed photos of that. I really loved making this table, and it's one of my favorite things that I've made. And I use this glaze, the Celadon, a lot because I think one of my biggest skills with ceramics is detail carving. And I really love how it kind of pools in carving and draws attention to that. And it has a depth of color without being so saturated that it takes away from the content of the sculpture or carving.
Claire, you have 3 minutes.
Gotcha. I made this piece this semester in Nathan Lynch's class. I was thinking about the coveted single seat on the bus and was trying to make a sculpture that emulates two people trying to share like an armchair. And I really like his idea of like making a sculpture where the gesture informs the experience of it. Oh, I think I skipped a slide. It's okay. These are some pieces I made for my senior show that'll be part of a larger installation. None of them are larger than 10 inches, and the scale is not in relationship to each other. So I have some animals that come up in folklore as symbols of human qualities, pollinator relationships that I'm interested in, the big butt guy on a horse again. This one, I think, I was thinking about spiritual oneness and what gives more spiritual oneness than an orchid that looks like a bunch of little men. Some kind of violence or sexual tension, depending on your worldview. This is from a myth called the Black Tortoise of the North. A little something for everyone. For me, this project is tying together a lot of my ideas about natural relationships and pollination, and it's just kind of my little world. This is the table I'm building as the pedestal for these sculptures that Donald is helping me with. Post-grad, I plan on having fun and enjoying life. I feel like no one ever says that, so I thought I would throw it in there. Some of my craft dreams are to cane a chair and make a copper headboard. And I want to focus more on comics and writing moving forward. And I'll probably be making ceramics in some capacity forever. A huge thank you to all my professors at CCA. You guys make this such a special place. And especially Donald, I feel really lucky to be in his senior projects class this semester. So thank you.
Thank you, Claire. Lovely presentation.
Thank you.
Maria, it's over to you.
So I'm interested, I have many questions, but the first thing that I wrote down that I have to ask about is this idea of intentional primitivism, that sort of big butt figure. It seems clear that you have really good modeling skills. So what are you saying with these sort of intentionally primitive kinds of figures?
I think part of it is that I like the genderlessness or the kind of like universal look of that character. And I originally drew that in my comics, and I started modeling it in clay, and I felt like that was something that everyone could kind of maybe see themselves in a little bit. And yeah, I don't know.
So do you feel like the comics, which are super interesting to me, will in some way that you'll figure out a way to more closely combine the comics with the ceramics? It seems like you've made several really interesting attempts at bringing them closer together, but I mean, I don't know. Do you think that's possible?
I think so. And I think having started making comics before I started ceramics, I saw a lot of like early, or not early, but like ancient pottery as kind of a cartoony thing, where I saw these like Greek vessels with the paintings on them, and I saw that almost like a comic or storytelling style. And that's why I was interested in working with ceramics. So I think there's like a lot of potential there, and tying them closer together and maybe not being so obvious by just putting a comic on a vessel or making a comic out of ceramic. That's something that I definitely look forward to working on more.
I wonder if it would be possible to, in the same exhibition, make work that addresses some of the same ideas, the comic and the ceramics, but not in a one-to-one relationship. It could be, I don't know, that could be really interesting. So I was going to ask how you felt about that first table you showed, and whether you were going to make more of those, but obviously you're interested because you're making another one right now. But the table you're making now, it seems like from the images you showed that it's both a freestanding table, and it's a pedestal for those ceramic objects. Is that true? Will
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the main idea, well, I started it as the pedestal for the objects, but it's also kind of at a coffee table scale. And I think it'll kind of give the objects like a game feeling, almost like a chessboard or like a mahjong board or something.
Mm-hmm. I could definitely see that. But do you envision all of these components as always being together or existing separately from each other in the future?
I see them as existing separately in the future. I haven't even thought about what I'm going to do with this thing, to be honest.
There's always that problem.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about how Celadon, the way it pools and creates a darker shade, that it works like shading does in drawing.
Right. Yeah,
You
exactly.
could exploit that even further.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a good point.
Okay. So the pollinators, I was interested to see that although the pollinators, that text refers only to insects, you included a hummingbird. Is that simply because the hummingbird acts in the same way as the insects?
Yeah, hummingbirds are pollinators too.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're less in like the one-to-one pollinator relationships where they have there are a lot of different kinds of plants and wildflowers mostly that they pollinate.
Okay, you mentioned a really interesting range of influences. Only one of them was someone who works three-dimensionally, being Suarez Firmkiss. So I was wondering if you are imagining yourself working more painting on ceramics, or if you're envisioning that at all as being part of the future. Because you mentioned these three painters, well, two painters. You'd say R. Crumb is a painter and I mean, he does actually do paintings, apparently.
Yeah, I think I do see myself working two-dimensionally. I think also it's just as a functional concern after school, not having access to a ceramic studio is something. And yeah, I like the idea of continuing working with ceramics and that kind of painting and cartooning style.
I could really imagine that being some, offering some rich possibilities. And I wouldn't worry too much about access to ceramics in that I think it's easier to find access to ceramics than it is. I mean, I see printmaking students who basically just stop because they have, it's harder to get access to a press facilities. But there are so many places you can do ceramics, community colleges, those studios that pop up everywhere all over the city. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah, for sure.
So what does that phrase desire as a barometer mean to you?
God, I guess I was thinking about that quote and how it's like kind of a automatic compulsion almost to for these insects to pollinate these plants and these relationships. And there is like part of that monologue where he goes on to explain how like love and sex can be an interesting barometer for like how you live. And I don't know, I think it's an interesting idea. I don't know how exactly to explain it.
We have so many of those pieces in which there's a relationship taking place between two parts, whether it's a human figure on the back of an animal or two animals together. It seems like even when there isn't an explicit connection between comics and ceramics, there seems like there's a presence of two beings in your pieces. Where do you think that comes from?
I think it's kind of a little bit, it's like a reflection of me, kind of. I'm really interested in people and talking and chatting and connection in all these ways. And I think that comes across in my work, whether I intend it or not.
Well, I mean, those figures riding they're on the back of the animal. The whole nature of the material is that they don't look separate. They look like they're part of, yeah. Well, that's about all the questions I have.
You've got a perfect sense of timing, Maria.
Yes, I'm really excited about seeing your senior show. So make sure that I know about these.
Yes, I'll email you.
Okay, good.
Wednesday, it opens the Wednesday after Thanksgiving, is that correct?
Yes.
No, the
29th.
Yeah, is that right? The 29th.
Okay.
Thank you, Claire. Wonderful work.
Thank you, guys.
Our next speaker is Jonas Cohen. Jonas, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Hello, can you guys hear me?
We can, thank you.
Awesome. Well, let me share my screen very fast.
It's working. We can see the entire presentation there. Yeah,
amazing.
Bingo. Well done.
Here, one moment, because okay, yeah, all right. Hi. So my name is Jonas Cohen, and welcome to my furniture BFA Senior Conversation. So I'm gonna start this off by telling you guys a little bit about me. So that's me as a little kid. I was born and raised in the wonderful city of New York, in Manhattan specifically, to a mainly like French household. So yeah, I spent a lot of time in the lovely city of Paris growing up, and yeah, and that basically meant that I really, really enjoy food, nature, and animals, and yeah, because they're just all around there. And so yeah, that's a little photo of me angry at a sheep for some reason, but yeah, I've always been very much into nature, food, and animals, and hospitality as well. It's just been a very big part of my life, and just kind of setting the table for big dinners with my family, and clearing it and cooking for everyone. And now I wait tables at a restaurant part time, and it's just really informed the way I work. And yeah, and I really like power tools, and I did not get the opportunity to use a lot of them in New York. So I came to San Francisco, because I wanted to go to California College of the Arts, and they have a great wood shop, and I had such a good time here. But anyways, that's enough about me. Here, so this is one of my first pieces. I'm very, very proud of this one. Took me a really, really long time, but this is the Lambda chair. It's a white oak chair, kind of loungy, not terribly loungy, but kind of cozy. It's very comfortable for it being entirely made out of wood. And yeah, I made this for the techniques class. And yeah, this was just a great exercise in joinery for me. Just super, super difficult to do, especially when you're trying to accommodate a human form. It's just very complicated, but I had a really good time making this. This is my next piece. So this is kind of where the theme of animals and food comes in. So I've always looked at butchery and fishing and all of these ways that people collect food as an art form, because we're taking something that's living and we're cutting it up in a bunch of ways to make it functional. And that's exactly what us woodworkers do to trees. We mill them and we cut them up to become functional into something else. And so I wanted to create a direct relationship with that by making this cabinet here. So this is the impossible cabinet because I can't believe it's not beef. And just to hit the nail right on the head, I painted it with milk paint, which also became one of my favorite materials at CCA, and it comes back a lot. But yeah, here's some of the close-ups, and this was really fun because when I was drying these, I was literally putting red pieces of wood into a kiln, and I felt like I was putting steaks in an oven. But it was really fun in the wood shop too. A lot of jokes were made about this. Then to go back into the theme of animals, this is the table basse or table base. So the literal word for in French for coffee table is table basse, is a low table, but also like table bass. So I wanted to play with words and make a table that's shaped like a sea bass. And yeah, this is a big redwood chunk. Had so much fun making this. Got to use all crazy kinds of grinders and chainsaws, and felt like I caught a giant fish out of the ocean. And I finished it with food safe oil. So in theory, you could serve guacamole and chips or ceviche in that big cavity right there in the middle, and hose it down afterwards. This is another piece of mine, lamp 51. So I have a few kind of like an alien theme going on a little bit. So this is poplar, milk paint, and electrical insulators, which is a found object that also comes back a lot in my work. I turned this entirely on the lathe in 3 parts, and this was the first time I had ever really experienced with the lathe like that, and it's just so fun to paint on it. Yeah, here's some of the nicer photos. But yeah, the original sketch was supposed to look like some sort of alien monolith thing, and it definitely changed. But yeah, the process felt a lot like pottery, and it was just super fun. I actually made another thing like that today. And as a response to that, I also made another table with it using the same technique and turned all the wooden parts on the lathe as well. And again, used milk paint, sanded it, layered it until it really kind of prints itself into the grain and gets that crazy effect. this is all ash actually, which is as white as it gets in terms of wood. And so it has this crazy color now. It's super fun. Yeah, I like bowls a lot. I do a lot of bowls on my tables. This again is another electrical insulator project. This is the industrial cactus. This was the first time I ever made anything out of metal. So yeah, pipe, sheet metal, a lot of MIG welding, some TIG welding, got to learn how to do wiring, well, basic wiring for a lamp, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. And here's some photos of the layout and a mock-up light that I had made as well. Just, yeah, like working with metal. I had a lot of fun with this. This over here is my tambour bag. So this was for my upholstery soft techniques class, and I got to play with leather. And it's a tambour bag. So a tambour is a woodworking technique where you basically turn it into fabric like this. And so the point of doing that was to make it a portable desk. So the fabric is rigid in one direction, but flowy in another. And so it acts as a flap on a bag, but then you can let it go and it becomes solid. And we don't see it in the photos, but there is an upholstered cushion on the back side of the bag so that when you're laying your computer on your lap, the fabric becomes a solid surface and allows for proper ventilation of your computer. And yeah, just basically a portable desk. This is some of my senior work. I did a live edge redwood table. I will have better photos eventually, but it's still in the finishing process. But yeah, this is redwood live edge cookie that I got at Arborica, kind of great arborist in Marshall. And yeah, we just inherited this beautiful chunk and kind of built this thing completely on the fly using a lot of the woodworking techniques that I had learned in the past. And yeah, this one was kind of like a true test of my skills and how quickly I was able to build this. Yeah.
3 more minutes, Jonas.
Okay, yeah, this is table 51. So this is the first thing that I ever made at CCA, and I'm actually really, really proud of this one. This was an exercise for me to basically use every tool in the wood shop. So I got to use the router table, the grinders, the lathe, all kinds of saws. And yeah, this is some of my design process. So see, I really wanted to have that dome shape somewhere in it. And yeah, here's some nicer close-ups of that one. But yeah, CCA also really loved this one because they decided that they were going to put it on a lot of buses in San Francisco. So that's a picture from the crit, my table on it, and that's my hand there. And yeah, and really want to thank everyone at CCA for a really awesome 4 years. Here's a photo of an old classmate, Ben, pretending to break a failed steam vent attempt on my back. But yeah, really a special thank you to Russell Baldwin, Kathy Lamb, Donald Fortescue, who's here with us today, and Brian Hart for being the best shop manager ever. Yeah, thank you guys.
Awesome. Thanks, Jonas. That's really amazing. And it's great to see all those images of the workshop in amongst your work. It's really makes you realize what an amazing place we have at CCA sometimes. It's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Maria.
Well, I'm completely bowled over by the amount of work you have accomplished. The amount of good work, really interesting.
Bowled over.
What? Oh, all right.
Nice poem.
Yeah, very funny. I know. So I thought it was interesting that when you talked about your past, you were emphasizing hospitality, and that a number of your pieces seem to, to borrow something Laurie Anderson once said, to focus on the guest-host relationship. And I like that a lot because it seems like it's natural to you. But that first chair you showed, I I thought it was incredibly accomplished. I like the way the arms and legs create that same shape, that you've unified the arms and legs. If you could show that again, was the first.
Sorry, the Wi-Fi here is really slow. I'm trying to
Okay,
show it. There it is. Soon enough. Ah, this one?
there. Yes, the way that it's both the backward and the forward movement are so strong in that the rear leg is coming up and pushing forward, and the front leg at the same time is echoed by the back of the chair. I mean, I just think it's a good piece. It's a really nice design.
Thank you.
So the sort of the metaphoric relationship between woodwork and butchery, I appreciate the fact that you carried that through absolutely completely, including using milk paint. I wasn't really clear entirely. So if you could show that again, that second slide, the one that shows the opening. So are all of the different parts of the beef, are everything opens and functions as a drawer?
Yeah, everything except the head. But they're kind of basically just panels that are drilled and screwed onto they're drawer fronts.
Yes.
So the drawers themselves, they're all square. And so the one that I don't know if you guys see my cursor, but the one I'm highlighting right over here, like that one, you actually have to open the one beneath it to open the one on top. So it has like a lot of kind of complications to it.
I think there's actually there's a little bit of a lesson in this, which is that sometimes carrying through the conceit as completely as possible can render the project, I don't know, more of a work of art, less a practical thing. But I mean, I'm not sure that a cow or a side of beef shaped object is anything but a great work of art. So I wanted to ask you about those delineations. Are those the delineations for butchering a side of beef, for instance? Or were they?
Yeah.
So
yeah, they are actually. You can't really see it very well, but the panels they're dotted where different cuts of meat would be as well with the wood burning tool. And obviously I had to kind of square up the geometry because cows aren't trees and they're not boards. But
so show the first one.
yeah,
See if the first one.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're saying that those divisions of the different panels do not actually describe cuts of beef, but you do have the cuts of beef delineated on the surface with the dots.
Well, there's a bit of both. I had to do some sort of compromise to kind of just allow it to have some sort of function.
Okay.
Because otherwise it would just be way too sculptural and just none of it would really kind of come together the way I would want it to. But yeah, these are based off of English beef cuts. I did some research into which because every culture has their own kind of way of butchering, and so I wanted to see which one would adapt itself most to cabinetry. But yeah.
Well, this sort of
brings
me to the next kind of question or point, which is this thing that I see as an issue, which is not an issue like a bad thing. It's more like the biggest question about furniture making as an art form, which gets foregrounded, the sculptural qualities of a piece or its functional capabilities. Do you think for yourself one is more important than the other, or do you feel like they're both important? I'm curious.
I think they definitely both have their value, but I feel like it's hard to make something that's intended to be beautiful versus intended to be comfortable, especially in seating, for instance. like it's hard to find the balance because I find that a lot of the most comfortable things are like sofas, for instance, but they just kind of look like giant pillows in a lot of the case. Or like a chair, like a desk chair, is like oriented towards a certain goal, and so it's hard to make like a beautiful.
Uh-oh.
Looks like we've lost Jonas for a moment.
Just for a second, maybe he'll be back.
Perfect timing.
Because
Oh no, totally imperfect timing. I'm being, Australian. Right in the middle of a conversation. You don't want someone to drop out.
you think he knows he's lost contact with us?
Yeah, it might be rebooting. Hang in there, everyone. We'll give Jonas a few more minutes to see if he can come back.
Hello.
I can hear someone.
You guys see me?
We can't see you, but we can hear you. So that's, oh, there you go. Excellent.
Ah,
My
well,
thing completely passed out, unfortunately.
he's
But
now in the woodshop.
Oh.
yeah. Gonna pull it up here. But
Okay, so we were talking about this question of art versus function, and I think that we can simply all agree that chairs are, I mean, I was curious, is the chair that you made comfortable to sit in?
it's as comfortable as a piece of wood could get. If I were to put it in any words. Like it would obviously be better if it was, upholstered and had a bunch of cushions on it, but it's it's a hard piece of wood at the end of the day, so it's
Well, I think we can agree that chairs are probably the most difficult piece of furniture to create, to strike the compromise between something that is artistic and something that is comfortable. I mean, I can't tell you the number of miserably uncomfortable but really beautiful chairs I have encountered in my life. So I'm not really totally clear about how the tambour bag works. I can see that it bends up, but what does that bending up function have to do with it functioning as a desk?
well, the bending up is only as a means to open it, but when it bends down, it's actually like it's solid. It becomes like a rigid surface.
So that's the surface on which the computer is intended to sit when it's a rigid surface.
Exactly, yeah. So you close your bag and you put your computer on top of your bag, and then it's like a table now. It's no longer a flap. It's no longer fabric. It's solid.
How much does it weigh?
It's very light.
Hmm.
It's very light because the leather that I used was very thin. So, but
So
it
even with the cushion and everything else, it's still comfortable to. That's inspired. So can you talk a little bit more about that redwood table that you showed at the end? I'm curious about whether or not it's like a console table that's against the wall.
it's an end table. Yeah, for against the wall. It's actually intended for right by my couch because I don't have an end table there.
So the back side of it will be against the wall. I mean, I was trying to figure it out from that photograph.
Yeah. Yeah. Here.
I'm kind of curious about how often, that particular kind of furniture design is still used or made or used.
Well,
You see them in museums, tables that are flat against the wall like that, and they go in entryways and things like that in grand homes. Okay, never mind. I do have an actual question though. When you
I
first
think we're running close to the end of time, Maria, but
Okay.
just a quick one. Mhm.
about the pieces with insulators, when you
Yeah.
showed the first one, it took me a minute to figure out that it's a lamp because you didn't say it. You didn't say it's a lamp. And I mean, yes, it's obvious to a certain extent, especially once you light it up. But I was just going to suggest that when you talk about the piece in the future, that you acknowledge that the insulators are essentially functioning as glass. I know that they're like the glass bowls in lamps. They function for illumination. That's correct?
Yeah, I mean, the truth is that the intention was a lamp, but then it came out kind of like the lighting was a little too dull, so and it looked more like a glow than really like a light source. So it became more of a sculpture piece than a light in the end,
It's a sculpture with a light inside it.
essentially.
Got it. Well, they're totally inspired, and I really enjoyed seeing all of your work. I feel like it's a great combination of a high level of craft with a high level of artistic design. And thank you. I appreciated it.
Thanks, Janice. So our next speaker is Yaxuan Zhang, so from Jewelry Metal Arts. So Yaxuan, are you there? Hi.
Hi, I'm gonna share my screen now. Did you guys see it?
Yes.
So- Is it good?
But I think you're at the end, aren't you?
I think Jane is after me.
No, I mean, is this your first slide or your last slide?
Oh, sorry.
No problem.
Wait. Let me redo this again. Oh my God, how can I change? I'm so sorry. Just a sec. Is this good?
Yes, excellent.
That's great. So, hi, I'm Yaxuan Zhang, and welcome to my BFA Senior Thesis Conversation. I'm going to shortly introduce myself. So, I grew up in Beijing, China. I'm now here in San Francisco for studying. I just embrace cultural diversity, and I found interesting in the jewelry making. So, I just embrace a lot of my Chinese cultural heritage, and I draw my inspiration from all those symbolic imageries and all those memories and the subtle emotions that I have. So with the 4 years of study, I just explores diverse combinations of the skills, materials, and techniques for my pieces, and I really want to create a compelling narrative in my design. Oh, sorry. So I'm going to introduce some of my past works. The first one is the client-based project that I made. This is especially made for Angela, and she wants to represent her cultural heritage and her mixed culture. So I use different gemstones to as a symbol for her culture, and I also made this whole ring into a photo frame shape box, and I engraved her name inside the box, and there is an opening on the outside so she can see through even with the lid closed. And this is another piece based on the memories. This is a memorial piece for the Auckland campus. The memory that I cherish most is the time when I was sitting in the campus library and I see outside the window and I see the redwood leaves floating in the wind. So I want to recreate this scene using metal, and I made this leaf parts of movable so it can like actually move with the wind. And I made this chair just at the same shape with the chair in the library. And I put a shell piece underneath to create this dreamy atmosphere. And here is another piece. This is the first time I was trying to use another media, which is the 3D printing. And at that time, I was really into botany and I planted flowers on my own. So I want to show my botanic approach and also me in my imaginary small garden. And I set a key bottom, just like opening another world. And I always use the snake as a metaphor of myself. So I put the snake in the middle in my own small garden. And another interesting part of this piece is I tested on painting it in different colors and I made it cartoonized. So it's not only looks three-dimensional, but also two-dimensional. And here is another piece that I made for my symbol project. I tried to incorporate my name and the meaning of my name in it. So the Xuan in my name represent the daylily. So I made this flower in the bottom. And I also tried another new material, which is the oven baked clay, to make the representation of myself, which is the snake. And it gives a really different texture and a contrast between the different materials. Coming to the senior project, I finally decided to use dreams as my whole theme, and I've generated different ideas and different designs. I'm gonna short read this artist statement of the first paragraph because it's too long. So possessing a strong curiosity for the realm of dreams, I'm obsessed with reinterpreting the laws of all things in the dream world and enjoy the process of revealing the intricate and subtle boundary between the reality and dreams. Guided by the rich heritage of Chinese Taoism culture, I interpret the duality of dreams with Mengzi's philosophy that emphasizes the harmonious coexistence of all matters and the self. Is the inverted dream defined in the universal context as illusory, perhaps the other half that completes our whole personality? I enjoy every conversation with myself in the process of pursuing rather than obtaining a defined answer. Oops, sorry. So this is the first series that I'm gonna show in my final senior show. These are old candle holders that I designed. So I just have a habit of recording all of my dreams, and I use videos, audios, and journals and collages to as a record of my dream. So I have a list of my dreams, and I finally chose 4 of them that I'm really interested. And I wrote them in calligraphies and translate them into the shape of these candle holders. And each part of it can be removable and can be interact with the candlelight on the top, but I'm not gonna like put a real candle in the show. Instead, I'm gonna use the fake. Instead, I'm gonna use the fake candle so that it can still have an effect with the light. And I really wanted to stress one point that all this part can be taken off and put it back together in the order you like. So these are the 4 designs. I'm gonna use different materials, and this is the first time I'm gonna try to use cast acrylic. So these are the 2 metal ones that I've already made, and I have another 2 works of old acrylics. So I try to use like so many different techniques, like the laser cutting, the laser welding, to attach all these pieces together. And I do the soldering after, and I'm gonna polish some of the parts and patina some like small parts here. So these are the works that I have done so far, and all these parts are gonna be attached together with the stand in the middle. This is another piece that I'm gonna incorporate in my show. I call it A World in a Wildflower. It's a saying that is so instructional and philosophical that I really like, which means you can see the whole thing through one tiny clue. So I incorporate the material of the mirror acrylic just as a mirror so that you can see yourself in your work. And also I tested on how to attach all those acrylics together. And I finally found a really good way to do that. That is to use the UV glue. That is a kind of transparent resin that is hardened under the UV light. So you can simply attach them together really tight. And I tested different pigments for the acrylic, and I finally found a really good one to add color to it. So I colored some parts of it and I do the gradations. And I'm gonna connect all these pieces together into a necklace. And I have braided the synthetic here for the connection. This is the details of this piece. And also I've tested how to create different shadows using the different textures of the acrylic. And the way I try to attach different texture is that I add layers and layers of UV glues so that it can create a water wave-like shadow. But if you do anything to it and keep it flat, it will just stress the outlines. And this is another piece that I'm gonna include. This is gonna be a hand mirror, and I tried to make this wooden handle. This is the first time I'm playing with wood, so I'm just like trying different new things, and I'm so excited with that. And this hand mirror is gonna be with multiple layers and having the acrylic parts alongside with the mirror in the middle.
Yaxuan, you've got like just 2 more minutes.
Okay, so this is the last word that I'm gonna include. So this comb in the middle is one of the passwords that I made before representing myself. And I really want this piece with synthetic here to represent me, myself, and how my mind blows. So all this synthetic here is gonna be fixed into specific shapes, and it's all gonna be symmetrical in the Chinese aesthetic. So I'm gonna set this comb in the middle and make this synthetic here floating in the air. For my senior show, I hope my exhibition will immerse the viewers into their own meditative space, allowing them to explore the ethereal dimensions of their own nature. I invite people to join me on this journey of self-discovery, where the boundaries of reality and dreams blur, and where the fluidity of existence comes to life. And for my future plan, I'm now applying for graduate schools. So I'm preparing different projects, and I'm really excited to work on different things and different materials. And last but not least, I'm gonna give a special thanks to all the instructors and all the folks that have supported me during this process. Thank you, Olivia. Thank you, Ross. Thank you, Dev and Curtis, for giving awesome critiques on my works and giving valuable suggestions on my senior projects. And thank you all my folks for accompanying me during this process. And we work till the end. And that's the end of my presentation. I'm gonna put my contact in the chat so that
Thanks, Yaxuan. Maria.
I am really interested in the pieces that you're making for your senior show, especially in the way in which you described those elements on the candle holders as being translations. They're characters that are then stylized or modified? Is that a fair description? Are those, because you said each one of those comes from a different dream. There are 4 dreams. How do those each levels and those shapes represent a dream? I'm just curious.
So I first generate different calligraphies of my dreams. I try to use words to describe all my dreams, and I do the calligraphies. And it's really easy to transform the words into the shapes of my design. So I just simply write the calligraphies first, and I just transform the shape.
So each one of those levels looks like it's only, I mean, 1 word or something like that. Would someone be able to understand the whole dream from, I mean, is there any way to read or understand, or is that just a representation of the dream for you?
So I basically wrote it in Chinese, so it might be hard to read, but I'm gonna write short introductions of all those calligraphies and the dreams when I put my works in the senior exhibition for people to get a better understanding.
That's what I was really wondering, if we would be able to learn what each of those dreams are, if dreams are that important.
Yeah, because it's really important for me to tell my dreams as a narrative, and also for the audience to get to know more about my dreams. Yeah, so I'm definitely gonna write introduction of that.
Because it seemed like that was the first piece, using the calligraphy as a way to determine the foot shapes. And then there were the additional pieces after that. You're using the same system, right?
Yeah, because as you can see, the mirror is like a really important component of all my works, and I want people to see through it and to see not only another space, but also see themselves as a meditation.
All right. So you said that symbolic images are your inspiration. I was wondering if you could talk about what the symbols are in your work, and whether or not when we look at them, we'll be able to understand what those symbols represent.
Actually, in all of my works, I transform the shapes from my writings, and all my writings are coming from the poetry that I make for my dreams. So this process itself, I just see it as creating all those imageries.
Okay, so it's a private language of symbols. Would you describe it that way?
Yeah.
Because they're so beautiful, and they do look like they suggest calligraphy, but I was just wondering if someone who is more familiar with Mandarin would be able to read. You think that a Chinese person would be able to read the characters that you create in your pieces?
I think if you like observe it like carefully, maybe you can tell what I'm writing, but I just do a lot of transformation, and I'm not so sure if it's like readable, like 100% readable, but yeah, to prevent this from like people not knowing what I'm telling about, I just gonna write introductions.
There's a whole, in Islamic art, there's a whole highly developed art form that's all based on using stylized calligraphy as a visual element. And maybe you would like to investigate that at some point.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's see, what else did I think of? So you said that the dreams could be in a different order. Do you mean that someone would be able to take those elements and reorder them on the candle holder?
Yeah, so that's the way I'm making my pieces interactive, and I want everybody to participate in. So that's why I make it like movable.
You seriously going to allow people to handle them? I'm just curious.
For now, I'm not so sure if I'm gonna actually do that because my designs are kind of have sharp edges and I don't want to hurt anybody. So I'm
Okay.
gonna take this into consideration.
So I'm glad you're going to tell the stories of the dreams. I was having a little difficulty when we were looking at those pieces, understanding you said that you're experimenting with casting acrylic as well as casting other metals, or did I misunderstand that?
Yeah, I'm making metal ones and also acrylic ones.
Are the acrylic ones cut? Are they cut out with like a
Um,
laser or something like that, or are you actually casting
sorry.
them?
Sorry. So I cut them all out with the laser cutter. I just make the file first and then cut them using the laser cutter, and I'm gonna attach them together also using the UV glue.
And so the acrylic elements are all transparent, right? Like you were
Yeah,
talking about the layering of the glue. I thought that was really fascinating, the idea of using the glue as an actual material to kind of paint with. That's very innovative. I like that a lot. It's great. Can you show that piece again? I was trying to figure out when I was looking at it, how when you were talking about it creating like the ripples like water or something like that.
could you remind me of which piece you're gonna take a look at?
I think it was this piece, A World in a Wildflower. And I also wanted to ask you, did you not describe this as a necklace?
Yeah, so this is just sorry, this is just one part of the necklace. I'm gonna attach different parts and connect them with the synthetic here.
So the part that's coming up off of the surface on the left here, I was just trying to figure out how that would be part of a necklace because it looks so, I don't know, complicated and large.
This is quite small. This scale is the whole piece, but
Okay.
not one component. Yeah.
So I'm seeing the shadow of it below it. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Ah. And so I think this is where you were talking about using the UV glue as a painting material that would still, and I was trying to figure out, I was looking at this image on the right, if those, if you could maybe point to where the UV glue is being used that way. Is it being used that way in this piece? Is that the
Yeah.
sort of the markings on the pieces?
I don't know if you can see it clearly, but these textures is added using the UV glue, and also the one in the back, you can see the gradation of the black color on the color on some parts of it, and I also use the pigments to directly like dye the acrylic for some of the parts. So they are like flat ones, but also they are like more textured ones.
Wow, I'm just really excited. I'm looking forward to actually seeing this completed. It's very hard for me to visualize how all these parts will come together.
Yeah, I tried to like make every details delicate so that it could be like better showing the effect of light.
It seems like you really think about functionality, about whether or not something can be used. Is that important to you?
Yeah, because I started my interest in making wearable jewelries, and I keep like keep this idea for my whole career, and I just feel like make something wearable is valuable to me. And now I'm starting to practice more on making sculptural pieces, but still I do like to make wearable stuff.
Well, even the candlesticks might not be wearable, but they're still functional, right? You imagine them as functional in some way. And I thought that was great. All right, there's
I
one
think
thing.
that's, oh, okay, go ahead. One more.
One last question. I wanted you to explain how the gems in that first piece you showed, you said the gems represented Angela's culture. And I was wondering if you could explain how the gems represent someone's culture.
So embracing like cultural diversities, I just feel like those things are kind of important to all of us, and we cherish it as we cherish a gemstone. So that's why I just transformed that idea into the real stones, and I set it in the middle, just like you would cherish a memory and or like a very important photo of your family or something.
I got it. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Yaxuan. Great work. Beautiful. Look forward to seeing it at the show. A lot of people said that in the comments.
Thank you, guys.
So our last speaker tonight is Yue Zhang. So Jane, take it away.
Hi guys, just give me a minute to share my screen. Can you guys see it?
Yes.
Okay. Oops.
There.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Yue Zhang, and you can call me Jane if you want. And I'm in jewelry and a metal arts major. So I'm from China. Based on my study experience, I went to another city for school by myself when I was really, really young. And after I came to America for study when I was 14 years old. So actually I don't have many times to spend with my family members each year, but they're really important to me, and we still have really, really close relationship. And each of them have different meaning to me, and they are all different. And I always like make things for them, and some to remember their kindness, and some to express my love. And my family helps me to have a life to aspire to, and to have a beautiful dream, and also to have a love of things. And when I'm full of emotions, like it's not very hard for me to create art, to express myself. So for my past work, the first one is called Fisher, and it is for my father. He always asks me to make something for him after he knows that I chose jewelry and metal arts to be my major. And the reason I choose fish as the element to make a box, because in his Chinese name, there is a Chinese word, fish, in his name. So that's why I chose fish, and also he loved fish a lot. So, and the next one is the Auckland Memory Sculpture Project. I made this sculpture at the last semester we spent in Auckland campus, and I love Auckland campus a lot. So I want to make something to memorize that place. And I have many photos in my phone, which I took outside the window at the studio, and I just choose one to make it out. And this one is called The Missing of Baby's Birth. The name of this box is a kind of flower, and I etched the flower on the top of the box here. And this is a box for my grandfather. It's a really simple box, but it's a really important for me and meaningful for me. He passed away like 2 years ago, and he is the first important family members that passed away in my life. So that was a hard time for me. And so I just decided to make something for him and for me to memorize him. This is a box to collect his chalks. He is a teacher before, and he always used chalks to write on the blackboard when he has a class, and he has like the chalks everywhere in his house. So this box helps me like to collect everything. Yes, And for next piece is my personal memory. So I drew a lot of photos of my mother's hometown, which I went there like many times when I was a child. And I haven't been there after my grandfather passed away. So this place is very important for me. I drew many drawings from the pictures I took when I was there. Like I have like thousands of pictures I took at that place. And I make the etching piece as a diary book. I love to write diaries. And I also wrote paragraphs for each of the photos. Okay, so my senior project. Based on my travel and study experience, I went to lots of places in the world. I love nature, and everything from nature takes me away from the crowded city life, and it gives me a sense of comfort. And during my travels in recent years, I realized that the world has changed and the earth has already been damaged for a long time. So for example, in Iceland, the icebergs are getting smaller, the glaciers are gone. And in my country, the air is smoky. Not only my country, many countries. And the greenery is replaced with factories and human residential buildings. And the touristy images online are no longer exist in the real world. And the trash is everywhere. The air and the water are polluted. The global temperatures are rising. And at this point, I felt my paradise was in ruin. Here's some inspired images I have from the ocean animals. So after I saw many of this kind of pictures, I decided to make something to represent the pollutions on humans' body, because like many of human beings has not realized that the environment has already polluted, but the animals has already get attacked from the pollutions we make. So for my senior project piece, here's some designs. I want to make some body adornment, body decorations to represent the pollutions that affect humans' body. So here's the first one. It's called the bustle, and it's made from brass and plastic, and it will be wearable on your waist, and it's gonna be really tight. And the idea for this piece comes from when you buy 6 tins of sodas in the market, and you will have like the plastic, and someone will throw that plastic into the ocean, and the animals will get like affected by that. And the next one is called in prison. This is our arm decoration piece. It's an arm chain. And when you wear it, you will feel like really tight and uncomfortable, and also a little painful, and a little bit like hard to move. And it's made by silver. And for
you have 3 more minutes.
Okay, thank you. For the third piece, it's called Be Locked, and this is a hat decoration. And it will be wearable on your head, and it's like really heavy, and the fishnet will be like all around your face, and it looks like messy, kind of like that. And I use copper as the structure, and have the plaster over the copper, and also some fishnets around it. Yes. And so the last piece, I haven't finished that, and I forgot to took the process images, so I just have the design here, and I will talk about it. So the inspiration from this piece came from like the people who have some throat cancer, and they will have like the tube, like the machine to help them to breathe. So I will do like something related to that. And the 6 leg around the neck will be like octopus leg. So I make it a little curve. And the 2 legs in the middle will be like around your neck and lock your neck up. And the 4 other ones will be really sharp and attached to the neck and it's like really painful when you wear it. Okay, so this is all the presentations I have today, and I really thank you, like every thing that everyone helped me in my CCA study life, especially jewelry and metal arts major professors. I was really glad I can spend my college life here. Yes, thank you very much.
Thanks, Jane. Awesome.
So, Jane,
Maria.
you described the book that was sort of like a memory book.
Oh, yeah.
You said they were etched?
Yes.
Can you explain a little bit more about that? Are these sheets of brass or some other kind of metal?
Oh, yeah, they are sheets of copper.
Copper.
Yes, and I have like about 10 or 20 pages of the etching copper things. I drew them out from the photos I have in my phone. And I wrote like different paragraphs about different pictures.
So that's actually, you make a drawing on the sheet of copper. That's how
I drew on my iPad, and then I print it out and go to etch on the copper.
Okay, and etching it with acid, like
yes,
normal plate. Okay, understand. It's a little hard to see them. I wish I could see them a little more closely so I could see the photographic image more clearly. But I understand that the way it's hard to see sort of makes me think about how memories are not clear. They're some kind of lost to us. We can only remember them sort of like this, maybe just from a distance. So I like that. I think that's nice. I noticed that the baby's breath on the box almost looks like it's the letter C. And I was wondering if that was because it's a box for chalk and charcoal, or if that's coincidence.
Yeah, so I have the elements of the baby's birth is actually like the elements I include on my slide, like on the top of my artwork, like that. So it's like the original one.
Yeah.
And because it's a box for a person who are already passed away, and like circle in China means like everyone being together.
Oh,
like
so
it's already passed away. So I cut a little bit off.
Ah, that's really beautiful.
Thank you.
So you have a very gloomy view of nature and the world. I mean, I'm not surprised. It's hard to avoid, but I really felt like the idea of body ornament and jewelry that is painful to wear is interesting, but how are you going to get people to wear something that's unpleasant to wear?
Okay, so that's why I make the first one as bustle. So for some people who like really pretty things, they didn't care about if the thing is like really is comfortable or not. Something related to high heels for women.
Yes, I understand.
Yes, and also I chose this idea because I like sometimes human beings only realize that the earth has already like getting worse when their benefits get hurt.
So only personally experiencing the discomfort will make it clear to them how bad things are.
Yes.
Okay, well that explains that. The arm piece looks particularly torturous. Tight around the arm. You might be interested. There's a group of people who performed body modification in the Bay Area in the 1980s mostly, and they were profiled in something called Research Magazine. And do all kinds of things, experiencing discomfort, even pain, as part of the experience of creating an enhanced consciousness.
Mhm.
But
Okay.
so you're saying that we need to suffer to understand how bad things are?
Yes, that's the beginning, like for people who change something.
The suffering comes first, and then
Yeah. That's my opinion.
and your work is going to help them to experience the suffering.
Yeah, I want like people to realize that, like
Okay.
the pollution really affected us.
It is. It is, and it's just I guess the question is, this piece is really beautiful, the imprisoned, and also the bustier, the other piece. They're very beautiful, and just like a pair of Christian Louboutin high heels, it's like you suffer as you wear them, but they're very beautiful. Whereas the pollution is not beautiful at all. And the effect on those animals is not beautiful at all. Does that feel like a contradiction to you at all?
Yeah, so actually, definitely like pollutions, they're not pretty. But so for me, I make like more wearable piece. And for my senior project, like the basic things, I want to make some pretty things, but painful. So I think we are getting things from the nature, and we want to make many things like to be prettier and something like for example, like there's like many factories maybe for fashion or something. We are making like many pretty clothes, but actually more factories, more pollutions. So I think like pretty and pollutions, they're connected to each other.
Yes, I can definitely see that that's a connection that you could make. Although it would be possible for someone to make beautiful things, but to not pollute while doing it.
Yes. So like for my pieces, I mostly use some waste materials.
Oh, so is your silver recycled silver?
That's like recycle, like so I do many castings before, and there's like many leftovers when I cast it, and I use all those like waste silvers to make it. And also the plastic, the plastic for this one, it's like the water bottles we drink every day, like I collect them.
I understand. That was clear to me that was I didn't think you went out and bought the plastic bottles. I don't know. This is a complicated question about using waste materials, and you know that even in the fashion world, there's a lot of conversation about clothing that uses recycled fibers. Well, even clothing that uses recycled fibers still contributes to the waste stream.
Yes.
So that last piece, I have a little bone to pick with you, which is that you describe its legs as octopus-like. Octopuses, how many legs does an octopus have?
Yeah. So this is just like an idea, because when I was making it, I was thinking about like what can I make like related to my concept. But yeah, and the circle in the middle is like not big. If I add like too much legs, it will be like not enough space for them to.
Well, you could say a crab then instead of an octopus, because crabs have 6 legs. But when you said octopus, it was an immediate red flag for me, because definitely 8 legs. They even look more like crab legs to me.
but like the real pieces is like more curved like octopus legs. So
Well, just don't tell anybody that you're thinking about an octopus when you're making it.
okay.
Well, I think I'm about out of questions. I'm really interested to see what you're going to make next, because you have a really a kind of a severity about your attitude when you're like this gloominess, and yet you make very beautiful things. So I feel like there's going, that contradiction is something that you're going to have to work out for yourself, that I think you have a desire to make things that are beautiful, but then also their painfulness will remind people about the problems we face. And I applaud that. I think that's very admirable and courageous on your part.
Thank you. And like I actually make like many artworks about pollutions in the world, like from many years ago and until now. But I will like just keep doing this kind of things. But the questions you have today about the pollutions and the world, I will think about that and to show like more things in my future works.
That's great. Thank you for sharing your work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you, Susie. Thanks, Jonas. Thanks, Claire. Thanks, Angela. Wonderful presentations, really thought-provoking work. It was really interesting to see that almost everyone has this kind of relationship to the natural world and the materials we use and how craft processes interact with that. That common theme running through all of your work was really interesting and inspiring. Maria, thanks for your thoughtful comments and your interrogations. I really appreciate your perceptions and your thinking. And we all look forward to the opening of the senior shows coming up soon. So I think pretty much everyone in the audience knows about when the senior shows are coming up. But if you haven't, feel free to email anyone else at CCA to find out about those. It'll be a really amazing pair of senior shows at the end of this year. Special thanks to my class, all of whom are here today. Thank you guys for turning up and paying attention. And see you all soon. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Bye.